reason the rich don't pay taxes is because there's 3 types of income. They'll never teach you this in school. Be very careful with that because I use debt, Trump uses debt. The more debt we use, the less tax we pay. That is why I love real estate. I can use debt, pay no taxes, make a lot of money. So that's really what I teach. I don't recommend it, but for those of you who understand what's called an infinite return, it's the best way to get rich, but you have to have a lot of financial education. Who wants to live below their means? I want to live the best life I can possibly live. So I talk about this often. I use liability. If I want to buy a new Ferrari, I first buy an asset, and the asset pays for the Ferrari. I wanted a Rolls Royce. Why? Because I never had a Rolls Royce. I had Bentleys. So I built an asset, and the asset then bought my Rolls Royce. Now I'm kind of bored with cars. So I don't have a guilty thing. Is that I have financial education, which is what the Rich Dad Company teaches. And you can have the same thing too. So their mindset is they've been programmed to be employees to work for the rich. And that's what my rich people are. So it's all here in the financial statement. The rich work for assets, the poor and middle class work for money. Very different minds. So I don't want a job, I just want the asset that produces income called cash flow. Not tax. Not tax. That's why the rich get rich. Let's start with this one first, keep it small. Is here you go to school, get a job, you become an employee, but you learn nothing about taxes. Then you become a little entrepreneur, you start your little falafel shop business or whatever you start, right? So that self-employed, small business. And then you have big business, 500 employees or more, or I for an investor. So Tom, how much tax do employees pay?
Well, typically if they're making a good salary, and this is, by the way, the same rates around the world, typically it's going to be about 40%.
40%. And after the Trump tax cut, did that change much?
Not much. It didn't.
So if you're I'm going to start my own little business, I'm going to, start my little shop or my coffee shop, how much do these guys pay?
Well, now it goes up because you're paying both your share of the taxes plus the employer's share of the taxes because you've got both sides. So now it goes up as high as 60%.
So when you hear a young person, an old guy like me saying, I'm going to start my own business, they don't know anything about taxes, do they?
No, and in fact, this is the place where people get in trouble. Because over here, the money's being taken out of your paycheck. But here, you're responsible for your taxes. And so what happens is that you go, let's say you're successful with your pizza shop, right? All of a sudden, tax time comes around. Oh no, I've spent all my money and I don't have money to pay the taxes. And people go out of business real fast here.
So every job is not so much for the high-paying job with job security. For not everybody. Most people should have job security because they're not designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you better take this job and say, well, which way am I going to go? So I knew my job at Xerox was to go here and here and here, not stay here. And I actually make so much money over here that I don't need job security and the money. So really that's the lesson. When you look at a job, you look at what can I learn more than how much can I make. I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look for a job where you can learn a lot, the harder the job, the better it is. What makes something an asset or liability are the two most important words in business. Cash flow. Which way is the cash flowing? So an asset, if the money is flowing into your income statement, an asset. So my rich dad would say, money is flowing into your pocket, it's an asset. Money is flowing out of your pocket, it's a liability. So the average person, they go out, they buy a house, and say, oh, it's an asset. But every month, it's flowing straight to the bank. So your money flows straight to the bank. Not that intelligent. I want the money to flow from the bank to me. So it flows to the bank. Or what they'll do is they'll buy a stock or a bond or a mutual fund. And it's an asset, and it flies straight to Wall Street. That's your asset, Wall Street's asset. And the third line, when you look under expense, first line is tax. The average employee, like my poor dad, the high-paying job, the money comes in, goes straight out to taxes and to the government. Makes sense? So when you get a job, first line, taxes. Second, mortgage to the bank. Third, your 401k or your IRA, straight to Wall Street. But you think they're assets. It's not, they're assets, but they're not your assets. So that's one of the big things my rich dad taught me is you got to control your cash flow. You want the money flowing into your pocket, not out of your pocket. So the one last thing I'll show you here is this is the asset column. This is what rich dad worked for. He worked for assets. He didn't want a job. And this is my poor dad here. He wanted a high-paying job. Different mindsets. So today, I still go home to Hawaii. I see my relatives, and they call me Bobby. Bobby, have you got a job yet? And I go, no, Auntie, I don't have a job. She goes, oh, too bad, you're unemployed. So we were in serious trouble. I owed my father about $200,000. My rich dad was laughing at me. We were going broke so quick because we couldn't move the wallets, $100,000. They were sitting in this bonded warehouse on Long Island, and nobody would buy them from us. So then, good thing about stupidity, there it is, makes you smarter. So I started thinking, so what's wrong? And I said, what was happening in the world at that time? All the baby boomers were fat, so they had to start running. So jogging was coming online. And nobody jogged before this. So these guys are all jogging. And then reading the paper, we're sitting in Honolulu going broke fast. And we're reading the paper, this jogger went to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco and was jogging around the park. And what the jogger did was he had no place to put his car key. So what did they do? He puts it on the front tire of his car and goes for a jog around the park. So we're reading this newspaper. And voila, when he comes back to his car wasn't there.
Oh gosh.
So the guy says, they stole my car.
Oh my goodness.
Who wants to live below their means? I want to live the best life I can possibly live. So I talk about this often. I use liability. If I want to buy a new Ferrari, I first buy an asset, and the asset pays for the Ferrari. I wanted a Rolls Royce. Why? Because I never had a Rolls Royce. I had Bentleys. So I built an asset, and the asset then bought my Rolls Royce. Now I'm kind of bored with cars. So I don't have a guilty thing. Is that I have financial education. That's what the Rich Dad Company teaches. And you can have the same thing too. You just have to stop listening to those school teachers who are poor. Most school teachers, like my poor dad, very good people, but they're so terrified of making mistakes. They want a steady paycheck, and they want a guaranteed pension. I don't think you can get rich from that point of view. Look at this chart here. It's called the cash flow quadrant. E and S, employee and self-employed. That was my poor dad. These guys work for money. These guys are not capitalists. They work for money, and they invest their own money. On the B and the I side is my rich dad side. That's the capitalist side. Capitalists use other people's labor and other people's money to get rich. Which side do you want to be? I'd rather be on the capitalist side. So that's the only difference. It's a whole shift of mindset and education. But everybody can do it if you want to do it. It was really hard because I didn't like, I'm actually a very shy person. So learning how to sell was the hardest thing I could do. But if I hadn't spent 4 years learning how to sell, I never made it here, I never made it here.
So the entire time that you were here, you were preparing to jump to the other question.
Correct. And so the question was, on the headline of the newspaper article, what does a jogger do with a key? And so we sat there and said, oh my God, a problem. So with that, I designed the shoe pocket. You can see this picture right here. It's Playboy magazine. Nice looking young model with nothing on the shoe pocket. But anyway, so we were going broke so fast by then, but when that picture hit Playboy, suddenly we were geniuses. And everybody started throwing their money at us. And all these products, our wallets were selling, our shoe pockets were selling, investors were happy, and the sales went through the roof. So we were extremely successful. So we went from risk, stupid, smarter, successful. The problem was how do we finance our inventory? Because the demand was worldwide. And we couldn't keep up with demand. So I borrowed another $100,000. And I went to my CPA, my CFO, Stanley. So I said, Stanley,